Kenny Pickett is gone, but even so, Shedeur Sanders and Dillon Gabriel face another problem with the Cleveland Browns. Deshaun Watson. Remember that Deshaun Watson is still on the team. There is no doubt that the Cleveland Browns are perhaps the most dysfunctional team in the NFL over the past 2 decades. Since their return to the city of Cleveland in 1999, they have had only 4 winning seasons. It has been heartbreaking for Cleveland Browns fans, who are among the most passionate and, above all, loyal to their team. The franchise's latest big mistake was the case of Deshaun Watson, who was signed 3 years ago for an impressive 5 years and $230 million, all guaranteed the largest contract in NFL history at the time. The result has been an outright failure. In that time, he has played only 19 games, with 9 wins and 10 losses. Declining performance and, above all, injuries have hindered his tenure with the Cleveland Browns. He is currently recovering from 2 Achilles tendon ruptures and is doing everything possible to return and play in the 2025 season. There are possibilities for Deshaun Watson. Kevin Stefanski has already named Joe Flacco as the starting quarterback for the Cleveland Browns to start the season. Additionally, via trade, Kenny Pickett was sent to the Las Vegas Raiders, so the rookies have moved up a spot. It looks like Dillon Gabriel will be QB2 and Shedeur Sanders QB3. However, Deshaun Watson could start making noise. At this time, the Clemson product is still on the physically unable to perform (PUP) list, but the quarterback has shared training videos on social media from the team's facilities. The team has indicated that his return to practice could be in October, though this is still uncertain. It's a toss-up. Some think he could be ready in October, while others believe it is highly unlikely due to the severity of his injury for him to participate in the 2025 NFL season. What is certain is that Deshaun Watson continues his rehabilitation, and if he is ready in October, it will be an even bigger headache for Kevin Stefanski. Will he have the highest-paid player on the Cleveland Browns sitting on the bench? This would be a major challenge for the head coach. Kenny Pickett is gone. The handwriting on the roster felt sudden to some and inevitable to others, the kind of personnel shift that leaves a locker room exhaling and a fan base leaning forward. But if cutting ties with Pickett was one change, it was only the first domino. For Shedeur Sanders and Dillon Gabriel, 2 quarterbacks who arrived with headlines, hype, and very different Bibles of experience, the Browns' quarterback room suddenly looked less like a ladder and more like a crowded intersection. And waiting in the center of that intersection was Deshaun Watson. Call it a collision of timelines. Watson is the established veteran, a player whose resume includes Pro Bowl seasons and enough highlight throws to fill highlight reels for a decade. He arrives with expectation and baggage both visible and invisible. Expectations born of past production, and baggage born of off-field controversy and the high cost of the contract he carries. Shedeur and Dillon, each young in their own way, inherit not just the opportunity to compete, but the necessity of navigating a complicated ecosystem. The first and most obvious problem is simple: opportunity. Watson's presence changes the math. Where 2 young QBs might have slotted into development roles with clear paths to meaningful reps, Watson's role as the presumed starter compresses those opportunities. Practices, preseason reps, and meaningful snaps in the regular season are finite resources. When a veteran with starting experience claims the lion's share, the youngsters must fight for the slivers that remain. Game-time repetitions, the kind that teach heroes how to adapt under rush, how to smell pressure and scramble cleanly, are rare and precious. Shedeur and Dillon will have to learn ruthlessly efficient ways to improve with less. But the problem is more nuanced than raw playing time. Watson brings a system familiarity and a decisiveness under center that can anchor an offense. For a coaching staff, that's tempting. Plug in the veteran, maintain continuity, and chase wins in the now. For a young quarterback, however, the veteran's instincts can mask the needs for structural learning. Shedeur's development, predicated on reads, timing, and building chemistry, may be slowed if the playbook is simplified or tailored around Watson's strengths. Dillon, too, could find his growth curtailed as game plans prioritize experience over experimentation. There's also the mentorship paradox. Ideally, a veteran starter is a teacher as well as a competitor, a guy who can shorten learning curves and model pro habits. In the best-case scenario, Watson becomes a coach on the field, showing Shedeur how to process pre-snap movement, demonstrating tempo in 2-minute drills, offering pocket adjustment tips in late-night film sessions. That cross-pollination can be gold. But mentorship requires humility and healthy competition. It's not guaranteed. If the dynamic tips toward territoriality, the room fractures. Young quarterbacks need a culture that rewards struggle as a path to improvement, not one where struggling is stigmatized because the margin for error has been compressed by a win-now imperative. Personality clashes, too, are a real thing. Shedeur is magnetic by nature, charisma that can lift teammates and attract attention. Dillon brings a quieter, methodical professionalism. Watson is a different animal, proven, sometimes mercurial, and under a microscope. Locker room chemistry depends on nuance. How reps are divvied up, how criticism is handled, who sets the tone after losses. The Browns staff must orchestrate those personalities with surgical precision to keep competition constructive and not corrosive. Then there's the financial and strategic reality. Watson's contract is a ledger item that affects roster construction, free agent decisions, and long-term planning. For the front office, the presence of a high-contract veteran can create short-term clarity. We have a starter, while complicating the future. How and when to pivot to a younger, cheaper, potentially higher-ceiling player. Shedeur and Dillon, even if talented, may find their timelines extended by front office constraints that have nothing to do with their film or character. Yet the problem isn't purely negative. Pressure breeds clarity, and clarity breeds growth. Shedeur's fire, raw confidence, theatrical flair, a flair for the dramatic, could be tempered into discipline by sharing a room with Watson. Dillon's methodical approach may be accelerated when forced to compete daily with a veteran who demands precision. Competition can sharpen decision-making, stress test mechanics, and reveal where a player's mental processing breaks down. In a well-managed environment, both young quarterbacks can take the fast track to readiness precisely because they have to. And let's not forget the fans. Cleveland is a city that worships winning and evaluates players at the speed of the next Sunday. The narrative pressure will be intense. Every botched throw from a backup, every steady march by a veteran, gets weighted against the ticking clock of expectations. That external clamor can change internal dynamics. Players respond to noise in different ways. Some bloom, some cave. And the Browns' coaching staff must be the noise.